This is the fourth of our 5 Engaging China lectures this spring. It's my pleasure to introduce Bob Felsing, who is our speaker for today. Bob is the East Asian Bibliographer at the Knight Library, and he also has a PhD in Chinese history from the University of Iowa and a master's degree in library and information science. Bob heads the U of O Library's E-Asia Digital Library Project. It's a nationally recognized digital collection and of important scholarly resources. An East Asian bibliographer, he selects materials for inclusion in the Knight Library's East Asian collection and serves as a liaison to the Department of East Asian Languages and Literatures and the Asian Studies program. His current research interests are information structures and the networked delivery of East Asian information, hence the title for his talk today, Networked Intelligence for the Chinese Market. Again, Bob Felsing.
Thank you. It's really a pleasure to be here because I've been to all the sessions before that we've had, and I think it's been outstanding because they're hitting all the points that you really need to deal with the market in China as I understand it. I'm not a business guy, by the way. If you need business materials from the library, go talk to Kai Ping over in the library. She'll handle all your business needs. But what I am going to talk about is China, but it's sort of in a tangential way. I'm really going to talk about the network, and I'm going to describe what I mean by network in a few minutes. You can tell a number of things by looking at, what your computers do, right? The first thing I noticed when I looked at this is that we don't have the Unicode font on here, which is the international standard for information exchange, because it's defaulted to Times Roman. So it's kind of interesting. We really need to be international in all the things that we do. This is an outstanding facility, by the way. I just enjoy it, except that the mouse is for a right-handed person, and so this is basically about a number of things. First of all, this is not a PowerPoint, and I'm sort of a disciple of Edward Tufte, the guru of graphical representation of information, who has stated, and this is a cardinal principle, that power corrupts, PowerPoint corrupts absolutely. So what I've managed to do, and I think this is fair, is to do a website that looks like a PowerPoint. So I maintain my morality intact. You might want to write down the web address here because this is an ongoing project that I've got, and you'll be able to look at it later. I didn't have enough time to put everything that I came across in the website, and there'll be opportunities over the month, obviously, for me to add more and more information. You might want to write down my email address too, by the way, because you can always get a hold of me. Networked intelligence. What exactly does this mean? Well, it's a lot zippier than talking about libraries or talking simply about information. When we talk about networked, it has multiple meanings. It's a very Chinese thing. You just say something that has a lot of meanings, and then that's really good. So I sort of enjoyed the networked. In my case, I think it means simply that it's the sort of thing where you bring many disparate points of information together and weave sort of a tapestry that becomes a network of information that you can use for your own particular uses, whatever it might be. It has other meanings as well, of course. What I'm actually going to talk about is really another network, and that other network is, of course, the Internet. I mean, everybody has access to the Internet. It's actually surprising in some respects that it's only been around since when? 1994. Before then, it was a really primitive sort of thing few people ever dealt with. So I'm going to talk about the mother of all networks, the Internet, which is also the fountainhead of all plagiarism. And I think it's probably kind of odd that I'm talking about this because I live in a place where every day I'm surrounded by books. Libraries just filled with books. Well, why talk about electronic information? Well, quite simply, I'll give you some examples of what goes on. If you wanted to look at a copy of China Daily, which is sort of a standard newspaper from China, you can go to the library and look at it, of course, but you the latest edition of China Daily that we have there, October 2005. So if you're looking for perishable information, in some respects the library is not the place to go, and we realize that. The best place to go in this case is, of course, obviously the net. Electronic information has a number of other notable aspects to it, and first of all is that you can manipulate it, right? Some of the information I've yet to put up consists of Excel worksheets. And there's nothing that's greater than an Excel worksheet because you can go through and manipulate it and do whatever it is you want to it and see all kinds of exciting things. So aside from that, you can do a word search, right? You know, a word search in a paper book consists of going to the index, if they have one. A lot of Chinese books don't. And then going at it from there and hoping that you can find what someone else thought might be the keyword. Well, in word searching electronically, the process is much cleaner, much easier, and actually much, much better. Importantly, I think that the handwriting is sort of on the wall for print materials. I mean, I hate to say that because if print materials are going down the toilet, well, people that work in the library have something to start thinking about, right? Like maybe a position at Wendy's or something. But the point is that times change, and part of the changing climate of information now is that it's switching from print to electronic. And it could happen over a long period of time, or it could happen suddenly. And when I say suddenly, it's because I think, you know, whatever Apple does, I'm counting on Apple to change the whole world when it comes to this, just like they did it with music, because a lot of resistance that we have with information comes to the people who presumably have the rights to the information, publishers in particular, and others as well. A number of recent things have come up that made me think more about information. Did anybody read the New York Times Magazine for Sunday? It's a very interesting article, What Will Happen to the Book. It's by Kevin Kelly, who's sometimes an editor of Wired magazine and generally has his fingers in the pulse of things. And basically he's talking about the Google projects and a bunch of other projects that are ongoing to scan books and put them online electronically. And he also mentioned one thing that's of importance to us, Beijing Superstar, which has put literally millions of Chinese books on the web in a particular form. So this is really quite interesting. To show what a networked society is and networked information is, after I read the article, I had a brief correspondence with Kevin Kelly where we discussed a number of things, and it's sort of like these bursts of information occurred, and then that was it. This wouldn't have happened if we had relied on the U.S. mail and print and such other things that are so 20th century right now. Print publishing has been in decline for some time now, and I just want to mention a few things. I realize there's a Da Vinci Code, and I realize that Oprah's book club is a very important thing in our society, but the fact is that things are happening. And just yesterday, I was at a meeting where we had a representative from a book vendor who represents Blackwell, a large British vendor of books. This is sort of the intermediary between publishers and libraries, and it's a very important job. He mentioned that in 1980, the University of Cambridge Press would, for every title that it published, it would print a press run of 3,500 to 5,000 copies. This is in 1980. In 2006, University of Cambridge Press puts out a publishing run per title of 500 copies. So there's a big change occurring there. For some time now, we've known that when it comes to academic books, we have a particular problem that goes on. A bestseller in humanities, an academic book that you'll find in the library, a bestseller is about 400 copies. And this means an award winner. So if your book is sold less than 400 copies, so what? I mean, it's 400 is sort of like the outer limit. And we know this in libraries, of course, because for the past decade, the number of books being checked out has dropped. We know this because the number of reference questions has dropped as well. So clearly something is going on, and the something that's going on is the world of electronic information. I don't know if you can see this. The first item that I got up here is the article from the New York Times, right? So you don't have to go out and over to the library and look up the magazine. It's right there, so you can check that. There are a variety of projects going on right now that are of importance probably to everybody and may be importance to you as well. And some of these I'm just going to zip right over. California Digital Library. California has a lot of money. They've been investing in advanced technology for some time now, and it's a very advanced operation. I mean, you have to figure that Stanford is working with Google all the time, and Yahoo wants to work with Berkeley. So you have a lot of interaction going on between big internet companies and some of your academic institutions. The scanning and digitalization of books have been going on for a long time. We have Project Gutenberg. If you go there, I think they have something like 16,000 books that you can download for free. They're all out of copyright, which is why you can do that. But it's a very interesting site, and you just might want to try it sometime when you're looking for something that's really old to read and it's still interesting. American Publishers Association, if you go to their site, you'll find out that they haven't been doing very well, which is the reason why I put it there. The one site that I do want to show you, and this is kind of interesting. Does anybody know about Mobipocket? Okay, Mobipocket is a format for electronic books, and I'll show you something about those in a few minutes. They're also trying to sell this gizmo right there, which has gotten not very good reviews, but it's basically a reading device. It'll connect you to the internet and everything else. It's sort of a small PC. What I find interesting about this is that if you go down here, if you've never heard of Mobipocket, last spring, I believe it was, or last summer, Amazon.com brought Mobipocket, never said a word about it. And so the issue that's in my mind, and maybe in some other minds, is why is Amazon.com doing this? I have some suspicions, but right here I think you have a first indication. They don't even sell Mobipocket books. You know, you go to Amazon.com, you're not going to find one there. So I find that to be a rather interesting thing. Does anybody here read the Computing Center newsletter? Has anybody here changed your spam controls as a result of not reading the newsletter? Okay. I mean, I think that's quite possible. We're talking spam assassin here. And the reason I'm bringing this up is that you're getting email you don't know about because whatever it is that they've got operating at the computing center thinks it's spam. And I've come across this on a number of occasions, and this is particularly important if you're going to be in Asia or you're going to deal with people in Asia, is that they may be sending you emails and you're not getting them. And that's because of compromised servers in East Asia and elsewhere. They enter a blacklist and spam assassin, and you're not going to get your emails. This has happened to me at least 3 times recently, and sometimes it's irritating. You know, just after many months and thinking of how many nasty words I could come up with in Chinese, I finally discovered that it was being blocked by the computing center. I mean, they'll block Boston too. It just depends on what kind of tragedy has been going on their servers there. The way around this, of course, is really pretty simple. Get an email account from a commercial provider such as Google or Yahoo, and then you can bypass this, which can be pretty significant if you're looking for some information. There's a lot of talk about internet censorship and what it means to us and what it means to China. You know, Google's been burned because they supposedly cooperate with suppressing the searching that goes on with Google in China. We don't have the font pack, so this is actually Chinese. If we had the Unicode font, you'd be seeing this, of course, in Chinese. But whatever it is, trust me that this is a site that deals with a way to get around the blocking of searching in Google. You know, you can burrow through these firewalls. The Chinese know about this, right? You know, I think everybody knows about this, and so we just sort of do a formality, and it goes on, and everybody's happy. I think the other side I have listed there as well is for this. And if you have something to say, it could be important. For a number of years here during the late 1990s, Darkwing was blocked. You couldn't get your email in China from Darkwing because somebody had a website up with China democracy documents, although he contended there was actually some porn on a freshman site over in Gladstone. But it was blocked, and it was blocked for a number of years so that everybody had to get a different email account. And there's ways around this. If you're really interested in how you can get around this, let me know and I can tell you, okay? It's not difficult, it just takes a little work. Okay, filter, spam, and censorship. You know, what you don't get could probably have some meaning to you. There are a certain number of tools that you're going to need when you deal with internet information, okay? And some of these are going to be really obvious to you because you've used them already, but an Excel viewer is something that's almost mandatory because you're going to get Excel files. WinZip if you're using a PC because you're going to get files that are compressed. A Word viewer if you don't want to spring for a copy of Microsoft Word, you can get a viewer that will just let you do this. Acrobat Reader. You know, a lot of PDF documents from all across the universe in PDF. The problem with stuff that comes from Asia, though, is that they'll be using Chinese or Japanese fonts to crank out English language documents. And you'll come across this where you can't read it because you don't have the Korean font, for example, and that's what the document is actually written in. So Adobe gives you a chance to download some Asian font packs. You may not be able to read this stuff, but at least you know that it's there, right? It's not just a garbled message. The three items there about Adobe for Pocket PC, Palm OS, and Symbian, these are for people who use these small devices like a PDA. You know, I think PDAs are probably something that's almost a critical part of existence for some of us. If you have a cell phone, you have a smart cell phone, you can read books on your cell phone. You know, you just have to have the right software, and that's generally free. So Adobe Acrobat is extremely important. It's probably not the best format for a lot of materials because Acrobat files tend to be overly plump, and there are other reasons that make PDF somewhat problematic when you're doing a lot of things. I really recommend this. If you're going to be dealing with international things, get Arial Unicode MS for the PC because this has all the fonts in the known universe, and unknown universe such as Cleon, I guess. You know, if you're a Star Trek fan, the font is in there. But when you use this, then you're assured that you're going to be able to at least get most of what's transmitted your way. And there are various variations of this for Pocket PC. You can get a Unicode font. I think for Palms, it's not yet available. So that's probably something that's going to happen sometime soon. This is my PDA, and I have an RSS feed right to someplace in China that's language tips. This is actually language tips for Chinese who are learning English, but it has, you know, some really good stuff in there like Chinese definitions of English words, which is pretty useful for some of us. And I hate to say this, I read my novels at night and fall asleep with my PDA, right? So reading off the screen is not as terrible as sometimes you might think it is. For those of you who know Chinese, this is a little section on dealing with Chinese language materials. Microsoft has come out with an IME, which is just basically a method for putting Chinese or foreign text into your documents. It's probably the best thing around. You can spend $600 if you want and get some sort of software that'll do the same thing as the IME, but I'm really pleased with what Microsoft did. I think they actually do some surprisingly good things at times, and this is one of those. Chinese romanization converter, if you're going to deal with Chinese, you know, is it Fu Chao or Fu Zhou or Fu Qian or Fu Jin or whatever it is? It's because of the romanization systems that have been used and becomes an absolute mess, especially when you get French and German romanization rolled into it as well. So you can go, there's a whole range of romanization converters that are available. And you can't see what this is, but it's actually a link. What I wanted to show, if we had the font, which didn't come through, is that you have two variations of Chairman Mao's name, right? First one is in simplified Chinese. The second one, pretend, is in traditional Chinese. And then we come down here and we have Romanized English versions of what the name is for Mao Zedong Juxi, Chairman Mao. Okay, this is the way it used to be until the 1980s. This is the way it is now, okay, with a lot of X's and Z's because Russian was incorporated into the system. This is devised by the Chinese to aid non-Chinese readers to read a Romanized version. Mao Zedong Juxi. It's the same as this, except this is used by U.S. libraries, and it can really screw you up if you're trying to find something in the card catalog because we have a space between, well, names are a little different according to the rules, but we have a space between every syllable. And if you can't find it, it's because you're probably doing it the way I do it, the way Chinese do it, which is use it as linguistic, units. And it's very discouraging a lot of times, but it's just one of those facts that you have to live with. Electronic books and ebook formats are something that's really pretty useful. And if I can step back a few, let's see. Oh, it's not there. I use all three of these formats when I'm reading ebooks, including Adobe, which has got some really pretty nasty DRM software, digital rights management. Okay. If you don't know Chinese, what are you going to do, right? Try Google language translation tools. Now, maybe it'll work, maybe it won't. Chances are it won't, but at least sometimes you can get sort of a general gist of what the thing is so that you're not completely shocked when you find out what it's really about. If you're going to go to China or if you're going to deal in currency of any way or shape or form, this has sort of been the standard since time began, the universal currency converter. You can convert it right there and make sure that you're getting a fair deal when you exchange your money at the Seattle airport. Rss Feeds. These are actually a pretty important thing if you want to stay completely up to breast with things that are happening. And there's a number of readers that you can use. These will push the information to you. You don't have to go to the website, for example, NewYorkTimes.com to see what's on. They'll push the information to you, and you can pick it up on your reader. Or if you have a Pocket PC, which is I do, you can pick it up through Mobipocket, which is also serves as a feeder as well. And these are a number of newspapers that have feeds, very important. A number of Chinese newspapers, including People's Daily, have RSS feeds for everything. So if you only want the RSS feed for sports, you can go there and get your RSS feed and find out what's happening in the realm of Chinese sports. These are some general finding aids. Google Book Search. I'm really not quite sure how successful Google's book searching program is going on right now. I've tried some of it. Some of it is okay, but a lot of my efforts have not been particularly successful or exciting. There's a lot of these things I think that still need to be refined. Amazon.com's Look Inside the Book, for one thing, does the similar sort of thing. It'll highlight the words that you're looking for as you're going through these books, and it's a very handy way just to scan instead of spending hours trying to find out what's going on. Google Scholar is another spin-off from Google. Google has a lot of impact in the world down south, by the way, in California. It has a lot of say in a lot of things. And this will allow you to go to our copy of this journal, Thunderbird International Business Review, that we pay and subscribe for in the library. So you can get to it without going to the library, actually, if you have your connection on campus or if you have your secret password and all that stuff off campus. So it can be potentially quite useful. It's just up to you. This is a search engine that I find really interesting. I thought it was not very interesting at first. It's called Groker. Groker provides a visual representation of information. Has anybody used it? It's really interesting. It's much different than the old text. You get instead these big bubbles with little bubbles inside. And if you get used to it, it's a very interesting way to look at information. And I actually sort of prefer it in a lot of ways because it makes things easier for me to visualize. I don't know why. Well, I don't want to see the new maps. A.9 comes out of Amazon, and it offers a number of options you can use for doing your search. It's a matter of preference. Google's what everybody uses, but try some of these others and it might actually work out to your interest. Has anybody ever used this site? What do you think of it? What do you think of it?
That's pretty good.
Really?
Fascinating resource.
It's fascinating. You can't believe how many papers come out of this, right? It actually is in my opinion, it's an excellent resource. Regardless of what people say, it shouldn't work, right? You have a lot of people together doing this. And, why does it work? Well, I don't know it works. I guess Nature magazine did a survey comparing Wikipedia to Encyclopedia Britannica and found that they both had 8 bad errors. So in other words, it's as good as Encyclopedia Britannica. When I've looked at the articles that they've had on China, I've been absolutely amazed by the quality of the information. Plus, they give me the Chinese text, which I really need. I know in some other areas, such as music, for example, it's also really pretty good. So there you have it. It shouldn't work, but it really does, and I'm continually amazed by this. This is an example of what happens when people get together and do networking. Okay, that's sort of just a brief overview of general finding aids. You can go to the library homepage and find all kinds of things that will help you. They have indexes, and especially for electronic information. You can even do chat now, so you can chat with the librarians if you want to. When we get down to China-specific information, we have an expanding universe of electronic resources, and it's really difficult to get a handle on some of these things because there's so many. This is JSTOR. The picture didn't go through. It's not much of an interesting picture. JSTOR, does anybody use JSTOR? It's really, really quite common. This, in my opinion, is absolutely the wrong way to go about electronic information. I was sort of observing the birth of JSTOR, which happened at the University of Michigan, where people get around in a big circle and decide, well, how much are we going to charge for this, and what are we going to do to preserve our profit margins or whatever. I don't know how they do this, but I think they just arbitrarily pick things. JSTOR, for all these major journals in the humanities, has a moving wall. This means that for something such as Pacific Affairs, the first thing I went to find was a print article, right, in Pacific Affairs, a legitimate humanities journal. And when I clicked on it, I discovered it's in JSTOR, and there's a 5-year moving wall, which means that for the most recent 5 years, I can't get access to the thing. I have to go to the library and get the paper. This is not uncommon. JSTOR is very good at this. And it can be really, really irritating, even if you're like me and I have to walk like maybe 20 feet to get the thing, but it's still enough to give you pause. There are a number of other things. If you look at these, and this is what I've been doing, drawing this information out takes some time, so that's what I'm trying to do to maybe save you some effort. they're going through and they're collecting the articles, citations to articles from all these journals, including a lot of journals that are in Chinese. Now, you wouldn't expect this in a predominantly English language resource, but there it is. And, you know, the world is becoming more and more international, including all the databases that we have. So there's a lot of Chinese and a lot of Japanese articles that are cited in this particular database, which is a wonderful resource. Business Source Premier Publications for China. I went through and pulled these out. I think they have, you know, citations for everything you can think of. Alcoholic drinks industry. That's always interesting if you're into that. So that's an opportunity that you have to get into real business related. Project Muse is another one of these. They sometimes have a moving wall, sometimes they don't. But you get a lot of overlap between the offerings. These are all available in full text online, by the way, so that if you want the article, you can just go there and download it. This is our latest acquisition. This is China Academic Journals, and it's all in Chinese, okay? I'm sorry about that. But there's ways around this, and I'm going to tell you how it might be useful to you, even if you don't read Chinese yet. This encompasses 376 journals. And this is outstanding. This has really pumped up our holdings in terms of periodicals. They're available online. They're in PDF format, so you can download them. You can print them off and do whatever you wish to it. And what I did when I was doing my reading for this particular session was to check out what they had for sports and physical education. Now, why this is in the humanities? We subscribe to the humanities, right? But I think somebody could not quite figure out what to do with sports, physical education, so they put it in with philosophy and the teaching of languages. All these little boxes just simply show that the font, the Chinese font's not on this machine. A lot of these magazines that I looked at in here, and there's really quite a few. I was really surprised to see how many that they had. They will have abstracts or tables of contents in English. So you can go through and look at the abstracts and sort of get a general gist of what the Chinese are up to, and they're thinking in terms of what's going on in the world of sports and physical education. If you find something that you really need to look at, find someone who reads Chinese, and, you know, ask them for a small fee to do it for you, and it's really going to be an excellent resource. I think a lot of people will find it very useful. Some things the library doesn't carry for a variety of reasons, mainly because they're free. Far Eastern Economic Review, we try to subscribe to it. It's a very important journal, but they don't understand that libraries can't just have a password to enter into the database. Because what do we do with one password? You know, we pass it around to everybody. We can't do that. They won't like that, and it'll immediately collapse. But we were never able to explain that to them. So they're basically focused on subscriptions to individuals. And so if you want to, you can go there and get a subscription. They have an RSS feed, which is really good. China Business Review Online, also a really good resource. It's been around for a long time. Some of these other journals are, you know, if you just want to look at something to get a bit of background information, you could. Journal of East Asian Libraries, which is near and dear to me, is online and available in PDF at no cost. Or if you want to join, you can pay $35 and get it. Choice is yours. There are a number of other repositories of electronic information that you can get. And these, in a lot of cases, are going to require that you have one of these ebook readers to gain access to it. And in some cases, it's not actually a book, but an article. This is what I've been doing, I think, for about, 5 years now. We've been scanning and digitizing books over in the library. And this is some of what we've put up so far. Trading with China, published in 1919, okay? Now, it's really out of date. I mean, 1919 is a long time ago. It's out of copyright, so we can do this. But I tell you, you look at this thing, and it's as up to date as anything that I've read, and I've gone through a lot of ebooks, of course, that are contemporary, and it's just bing, bing, bing. It goes right down there. You know, 1919, they were concerned about the same things that they're concerned with right now. So there you have it. I mean, past and all that is still very pertinent to today. One of the handy things about the web, of course, is that you can take care of all your immediate needs by going to the web and finding it there. Documents. This could be a real hassle, right? Well, you can go online and you can get your apply for your passport. I don't know how you deal with the pictures since I already have my passport. Visa application form, People's Republic of China, PDF file. You know, you can print it off and fill it out and take care of it there. When you're in China, Beijing Municipal Public Security Bureau is probably a nice thing to know about, because if you come across some sort of issue or problem, these are people that you might have to become involved with. Oops. The U.S. government has a lot of activity going on in China. So we have a number of consulates. I just listed a couple of them. And the embassy in Beijing, which contains all kinds of information. The U.S. government is obviously very concerned about China, and they produce a huge amount of information. It's rather difficult sometimes to plow through. A lot of really good information does come out of the embassy itself. They cover all aspects of everything from environment to what you should do when your passport is stolen, of course, and all these other kinds of things that you might find useful. Language matters. Not knowing the language, if you're in China, could be kind of an issue. But, you know, there's ways around this. These are two dictionaries that I find particularly useful. Sun Rain, English to Chinese, Chinese to English dictionary is really pretty good. It's been around for a long time, very stable, very good. Has all the modern words, and so you're really pretty good shape. Unihan database. This is the home of Unicode. The people who put out the Unicode fonts, they have the dictionary of Chinese, Japanese, East Asian ideographs. This is it. I mean, if it doesn't exist in there, it's not going to exist, sort of. You know, they'll be fighting on the fringes forever on some of these characters, but it's in there and it has this code number, and it's a basis for a lot of things. This is done internationally. The Chinese were involved with this. Japanese are involved with this, and it's absolutely critical. We've got 7 flavors of Japanese computer encoding. So this presents a little bit of a problem if you're trying to deal with Japanese materials. Chinese, you have simplified Chinese, you have traditional Chinese characters, which are actually in some cases substantially different. There's all kinds of issues that the Unicode will tend to help us overcome, and I really highly recommend it. These are just a few of the sports sites. And what I was looking for were for sites that provide at least an English page. A lot of Chinese websites will have English pages because the world is reading what they're doing right now, and especially when it comes to the Olympics. There's the official website of the Chinese Olympics. This is kind of interesting. This is Liu Xiang official website. I guess he's a hurdler or something. I hadn't looked at that quite carefully, but here you have somebody who's, I think he's marketing himself, but I'm not sure. But I think the government's also involved. So if you're really interested, go there and take a look and see what you think. I mean, this is just something that...
He'll also be in Eugene in a week.
Oh, really? Oh. Just shows how things that I am. So. But it really stuck out when I was searching for stuff. Chinese curiosities. Okay, everybody kind of likes these things like your name in Chinese, right? I think I've had like 3 versions of my name in Chinese, and then you give it to somebody who is Chinese and just burst out laughing, so you figure you've gotten it wrong, right? But I've done this 3 times, and I never really seem to succeed in getting, a proper Chinese name, but that's the way it goes. How to play Chinese chess, very interesting. What English words come from Chinese is pretty interesting, and this is what I was talking about with Kevin Kelly. This site about the origin of English words has a dictionary that's a web of dictionaries. It's 12 major dictionaries, and you go to one of them. If you can't find what you're looking for, you go through all 12 dictionaries. It's an interlocking group of web dictionaries. Maps of China, these are just basically some old maps that you might want to look at. Some of them are really quite interesting to see how the Chinese have done things. Online abacus. Chinese history, this is just one I came across. There's lots of history sites. New York Public Library has all kinds of really visual information on Chinese and East Asian history. Go there and take a look at that. It can be really quite interesting. This is a PDF file on business negotiation. I started reading about Chinese business negotiations way back in the dawn of time, basically, and they are very good at it. The first article I remember reading, it talked about the Japanese experience negotiating with the Chinese, and the Japanese basically didn't come out ahead, and they left feeling guilty that they hadn't given the Chinese more. So really pretty interesting, and there's a lot of material that comes out on negotiating. So it can be an interesting topic in and of itself. Chinese government and politics. The Chinese have gotten into the web in a big way. All their government agencies. I don't think I included this. They even come out with a human rights report for the United States because, we do it to them, right? We come out to point out all the problems they have with human rights. Well, they came out with one. I'll put the link up later, 2005, to describe what's wrong with the U.S. So there you have it. You can exchange your ills with each other. Trying to think which of these are sort of interesting to look at. CIA World Factbook is really quite good. You can actually download this, put it on your machine, save it for ever and ever. Central government, very good site to check out. China Securities, they have a lot of business information. Ministry of Science and Technology, I don't know, it doesn't have a lot of information, but it's sort of interesting just to take a look at. This is really important, the Chinese media. If you want to understand what China is up to, the best place to handle this is to go to some of these sites. People's Daily has an RSS feed. Like I said, in a multitude of subjects, you can get those. Shanghai Daily is actually a good newspaper online, so you might try that. China Daily is online. It's an English paper. Latest Chinese news is in English, and I'm not sure where the news is coming from, but it's always up to date. It's actually like within a matter of hours, so it's a really good site. CCTV, Chinese TV. It's a wonderful site. I really like this site. It's got the graphics are spectacular, which I find unusual. Most Chinese sites, once you look at them for a while, they have the thing where the dog is chasing your cursor across the screen, or all these graphics are moving all around, which is not something that appeals to me, but it seems to be very popular. South China Morning Post is a very important paper in Hong Kong. Take a look at it. I think you have to end up subscribing to it, but it's probably worth it if you're going to be operating much in Hong Kong. Okay. U.S. government resources. This is where I really bogged down because there is so much information out there that it's you're almost in a chronic case of overload. There's all kinds of PDF files, and I'm going to be putting these up as soon as I can extract them and put them up there. Foreign trade statistics. You want to find out how much trade did Oregon do with North Korea. You can find it, and honest, I wouldn't have believed it, but we did $5,000 worth of trade with North Korea. So someone has it recorded somewhere. Marketing video. It's just pretty amazing. What I haven't listed here is the U.S. Department of Agriculture, which surprisingly enough maintains a lot of information on the Chinese economy. not only agriculture, but in all kinds of other respects as well. Office of Trade Representative, very, very good, I think, in terms of China information. There are lots of other resources that you can look at. Oregon, this is what I've been able to find. It's not a very comprehensive effort. Total exports from Oregon. This is where you can find out about North Korea. Northwest China Council does a lot when it comes to China activities. And, you may have to go to Portland to take it all in, but they offer some really excellent programs. I think they had recently James McGregor, who wrote 1 Billion Customers. He was there. It was a sort of a takeoff from the Carl Crow book that was entitled 400 Million Customers. Chinese have increased since then. It's the idea if you can sell one handkerchief to every individual Chinese, there you've got it. Statistics are very important, and although there's some question about Chinese statistics, I think that they're improving like everything else does. National Bureau of Statistics in China will give you the information, and most often, I think the last time I looked, it was available in English as well as Chinese. So if you don't know Chinese, you can still take advantage of this. Provincial statistics websites are very important depending on where you want to go in China, who you want to deal with. Republic of China, Taiwan, which we tend to forget about. It's really an economic powerhouse, Taiwan. They have the statistics. You can go there and might be able to stop off in Taipei on the way back. Let's see if I can. This is my reading list for this session. And the thing about this reading list is none of it's paper. Except for the first one. First one was done by, it was on Yao Ming, the basketball player, right, written by humanities professors, which led me to conclude that humanities professors should probably not be allowed to attend sporting events. Trading with China, I mentioned before. China Dawn. The first one had the 5-year moving wall. That's what I really didn't like. China Dawn has actually been around for a while, 2002. It's in the library. You can check it out. Fast Boat to China, I think, is really quite interesting. It's not in the library yet. It's been out. I think Borders might have it. Anyway, I got it immediately when it came out because it's interesting. It's about the export of American everything to China and what it's doing to both China and to the U.S. So it talks about the impact on China. Very interesting. 1 billion customers, I just mentioned China Inc. Chinese business etiquette and culture. There's a lot of these things. This is just one that I happened to pick up because it was cheap. And, you have your multitude of choice. The Art of War, Sun Tzu, right? Everybody knows about the Art of War because it's used in everything from the National Defense University, which gives the Sun Tzu Award every year for the best paper on information warfare, to a lot of business things have been published on utilizing Sun Tzu's The Art of War. So quite interesting book, actually. And it's free. You can download this from eAsia. English is a global language. Sort of interesting if you're interested in languages. But this is one that I was really fascinated by, Sports and Physical Education in China, which is actually a good book. I've started reading and hadn't finished it, I have to admit. It's not in the library. And it's not in the library, I think, because this book costs $135. It comes from the Europeans who like to charge a lot of money for their books, and so maybe too much for us to handle. I got it in ebook format for $22, so I was really proud. And these are things that come in very useful. If you remember the last session that we had, this is an ebook that we made of Pete Suttmeyer's. It's just basically an article, but we turn it into an ebook. So if you're interested in the growth of technology in China, he did that. Bryna Goodman teaches in the history department here. And I don't even know if she knows this, but her book is available online from the University of California Press site. And if you go there, you don't have to buy it. You can go there and just take a look. This site probably has maybe several hundred books that are part of their backlist, including a lot on China and Japan, and you can read them online. I think they may also try to sell them for like $12.95. Every book is $12.95 in e-format from the University of Berkeley. So that's really quite an interesting site. The California schools do a really good job when it comes to the digital material, and it should be really useful as time goes on. Okay, this is something that it's not really up. This is like a phony web page, and of course the two squares there are actually Chinese. Huan Ying, welcome. My China library. Once we figure out what's screwed up with our SQL server, this thing will be up. It's a portal. It's sort of like a Wikipedia, except it's more controlled. The original intention is to use this for people who are extremely interested in ancient China, so for Han Dynasty. But what we can do is just sort of, democracy, right? If we get enough people interested in modern contemporary China, the flavor of this thing can change real fast. And what it does is it provides a number of things such as web links that you can contribute, bibliography, kinds of software, all the software that's available for people who are dealing with these days, you can be available here. So in other words, it's sort of a truncated version of Wikipedia. And if you email me, I can tell you when it's functioning, and you can take a look at it and see what you want. What I love are the quotes. Some of them are in Chinese, and there's might be several hundred of them in there. And some of them are pretty pithy. Some of them are actually pretty astounding. But I guess that's pretty much it. There's so much information out there that it's hard to process, and I think this is probably the job of the library in the future, is to process this stuff so that you can digest it and put it to good use. Do you have any questions? I'd be happy to. Yeah.
You have a website that'll teach someone Chinese really quickly?
Force-fed. That's actually a good question. There are a number of sites on the web that might work. There's one called zhongwen.com, ZHONGWEN.com. They have a lot of good resources that you could use. I think what I would really do if you're looking to do it in a real hurry is to get one of these programs you can put on a pocket PC where it'll quiz you. You can, while you're sitting there during commercials, you can turn on and learn Chinese. But it takes 4 years, but if you rush it. Yeah.
Bob, I'm wondering, I've read a few, I'm big into blogs, and there are some in China that are basically American and British expats who are writing about their lives, who are being paid to write about the expat community in China. Then the English language blogs that are by sort of Chinese citizens over there are sort of personal diary sorts of things. Those are the sort of two sets that I've encountered. The expat ones are all about, they seem to be sort of, look at these wacky Chinese people and where the cheap happy hour drinks are in Shanghai. Yeah. And the native Chinese ones are so sort of personal, they're not really giving me a lot of information about day-to-day life. It's more about, hey, my tulip bulbs came up today. Do you have any suggestions for blogs, or have you encountered something similarly, or?
I haven't really looked at blogs because I have sort of a moral qualm with PowerPoint, and I also have the same qualm with blogs. I mean, this is the sort of thing you might want to just become acquainted with some of these other sites and see if they're starting to cite some of these blogs. I certainly agree the expats websites are, it's sort of like 1919 Shanghai all over again, right?
That's the impression I have,
yeah. There is so much information. When I started this, there were no Chinese websites. The first one that came up actually came up in Switzerland. And so you could read about China, but it was really from Switzerland. Now it's just, it's all over the place. The Chinese word for blog is blog, so you're finding that the the technology is something that they've embraced wholeheartedly. And it's good for us, good for them, good for everybody, I think. Any more? You can always email me if it's something that you don't want to talk about in public. Okay. Thank you.